Hey guys, today we got something a little bit different planned. We're making a beat right from our phone using an app that I think everybody should try because it costs the same as a cup of coffee and you will never be bored in the car ever again, and you can make awesome beats with it. I love it. Let's get into it. So if you guys haven't heard of Koala or you hadn't had a chance to play around with it yet, this is exactly what it looks like. You get a series of pads that you can choose to record onto and then trigger in different ways to make cool beats. So today we're actually going to be sampling with this app. So let's start by getting some drums together. And one really cool thing about Koala is that you can actually import videos from your phone. So if I go up to the top right hamburger and I import video, it'll show all the videos from my phone, and I select the segment of drum bash that I want to sample. So then let's just hit choose on the bottom right, and it's going to compress it for us a bit. And now magically, when we press our top left pad here,
but I think the groove of the verse and chorus is...
we have the audio from the video. So what we need to do next is go up to the top right where it says edit. And this is where those of you familiar with samplers can drag the flags just so we can get a nice little loop going. Let's see what we got here. So now what I like to do is turn off one-shot mode temporarily so that we can copy over by holding and dragging over to the next three pads so that we can actually isolate each of the kicks, snares, and hats that we want to use. The other thing I like to do is keep a safety on the bottom right pad so that if I need to go back to the drum loop for any reason, it'll be right there for me. Okay, so now let's get a kick going from this first drum loop. I'm going to turn one-shot mode back on here. I actually kind of like just using this first one, so I'm going to drag the flag right to the end there. And now what I'm going to do is go to, you'll see an arrow on the top right. I'm going to press that and go to Tools and Crop. And then I'm going to go to Tools again. I'm going to hit Normalize so that we can get it to a nice loud level. Okay, so let's do the snare now. All right, and let's find a cool hat now. Kind of like this one here, this isolated one. Crop that out, and we're also going to normalize it and turn it down. And I also kind of like to get another hat option. And one kind of final thing that I like to do before I move on to the next step is to scroll to the right on any of the hits, and you'll see this little tone slider, and that will kind of shift the high frequency and low frequency balance. So for the kick, I kind of want to get rid of some of that hat. Darken it up a little bit, and for the hats, we can kind of brighten them up. So the next step for us is going to be to process the drums and add a little bit of compression and saturation. My favorite combination ever. Now, if you've never worked on a sampler like an SP404 or something similar to that, the workflow is a little bit different than you might imagine or are used to in your DAW. So what you have to do is add effects to your master and then trigger the pad that you want to add an effect to and then re-record it onto another pad that you can use to trigger your drum samples. If we wanted to start by processing our kick, what we can do is take it off one shot and turn it on loop and then press this hold button, and that will keep it going for us. On the very top, you will see a Perform tab, and this is where you can start adding effects to the master. And like I said, we want to start adding some compression and saturation. So if we head to the Strawberry tab, I'm really not sure what that means actually. So when we slide up this slider called Dirty, you can hear more saturation getting added, which is what we want, but we actually need to hit this little hold button at the bottom. That will hold the value in place so we can start adding other things as well. We add some compression. So if we liked those settings, we can go back to the sample tab. It applies that same effects chain to every single one of these. And actually, I kind of want to put that snare up like maybe 5 semitones. So now that we've got the processing where we want it, all we need to do is record onto a new pad. And if you press this little blue edit button, it'll get rid of that edit screen for us. What we need to do is select a different input. And you can see where on the top where it says mic, what you have to do is press resample from app. Now when we press a pad and we drag our finger up, it'll continue listening for some input and then it'll start recording when it hears some. So if I record in my kick with the effects that we've added, let me stop it. And do the same thing with our snare, hat, and second hat. we've got a new set of saturated and compressed drums. So now what you gotta do is go back to the Perform tab and then just take hold off so that it's not adding more effects onto the ones that we already added. One kind of nice thing that you can do is if you're on your kick, for example, and you go up to the Tools menu, you can trim the silence. So now that we've got our drums done, let's sequence a little beat that we can start adding some other samples to. So if you go to the top tab in the middle, it's called Sequence. And what you can do is choose your BPM. At the very top, you can see it says 110 right now. Let's do 90. And you can choose if you want to quantize what you actually record in, which we do to begin with. And I'm going to add some swing just to see what happens. And then you can press the icon for the metronome to turn that on, okay? So if we press play now, you can see that we've got on the top left, that pattern is selected. So that's what we're playing and recording to, and you'll see that it starts to go through. So right now, if we play something, nothing actually gets recorded until we press the record button. Go figure. All right, so if we want to start recording a little groove in, let's hit record. And the nice thing is that you can kind of add one layer at a time for the drums. So if we wanted to start with the hats here, we could do something like this. Okay, and then to play back your sequence, you just hit the play button. Just a nice, easy, simple groove. All right, awesome. So now let's properly sample something. And today we're gonna get a sample from Thomann music. Just to stay organized, at the very bottom, you'll see A, B, C, and D, and those are groups of pads that we can use. I like to head over to B for this. Now what I'm gonna do is import another video, just like we did before, import video. And if you haven't seen that sax cover of Killing Me Softly, I highly recommend it. It's really cool. So there's gonna be lots of sampling gold in there for us to choose from. So if we just hit choose at the bottom there, here we're gonna apply the same sort of general process as we did with the drums. I'm gonna copy this by holding and dragging to the bottom right just for a safety. And then I'm gonna copy this one over to, let's say like about 8 pads. I'm just gonna go through and find some cool little chops that we can make a beat with here. Okay, so here are the chops that I came up with, and I actually lowered the pitch by, it looks like about 3 semitones just to make it fit a little bit more nicely with the beat. So now we just need to go through and add these chops on top of the drums that we've already got going. So if we go up to the top and go to sequence, what I like to do is have a pattern that is only the drums, and then if you click and hold and then drag it onto a new pattern, we can layer the chops on top of the drums while also keeping the original drum loop as its own pattern. So if we just hit play here, all right, so now it's time for us to add the sauce and kind of build the beat out a little bit more. So there's this little chop I have on the bottom right. I kind of want it to go, put a little delay on there. So what we can do for that is employ the same process that we did for doing the processing on the drums. Go to the sample tab, and then I'm gonna press the sample that we want to add the effects to. Go to perform and press hold, and then go to this tempo delay here. If we press and hold the pad that we want to record to, it's going to start listening for our input, and then we're going to press it. Let's see how that fits into the sequence here. Another cool way we can add a little sauce here is just to add some vocal samples and some yeahs and some uhs and that kind of thing. Is if you go back to the sample tab on the top left and then you go to record from mic, just hold a pad and record something you want to add, like Another cool thing you can do is add effects on the way in. If I choose one of these effects, like how about some reverb? Yeah. So now we can kind of figure out where to add this stuff into the beat. So if I copy this over again by holding and dragging just for some little elements here. All right, so I'm gonna copy this pattern over, and then I'm gonna add one more little element where I say it's automatic. It's automatic, it's automatic, it's automatic, it's automatic. Now we get to the very best part of the whole app, and this is what I spend hours doing. You can launch these patterns in the sequence mode, right? Like this. Then we go to the Perform tab at the very top, and we start adding all these effects, right? Let's check it out. Just like a 404. And there's more, right? Like I said, you'll never be bored ever in the car again. And you know, this is this is something I like to do when I'm just sitting in the dentist's office or, you know, wherever, just trying to kill some time. This app is actually incredible for beat makers. So make some beats on the go, get some ideas down, and start having fun with it. All right, guys, we'll see you in the next video. Peace.